for Julio, it's been exactly the opposite. I mean, we barely heard from him all offseason. He went down to Tampa. He like locked himself in a batting cage in a gym and just was working out all offseason. And, you know, Jason, we could really tell when we were down there at spring training talking to Julio, or trying to talk to Julio. But as he told everyone, like he started saying no so much this offseason so he could just focus on being a better baseball player rather than talking to idiots like us. So it's remarkable. And like, I don't want to like set the expectation too high for Julio this season, but it's really like, even though he's only 23, the fact that he seems to have already like figured out, I just got to cut all this stuff out. Like, this is not like benefiting me. I need to only do things that benefit myself and make me better for this 2023 season. So off of all of that, what are we expecting for him this year? What are you expecting as a step for Julio this year?
Yeah, that's a good question. If I told you guys, he's 23 years old, right? Yeah. If I told you guys, especially after what you just said, he's pretty clearly dedicated to being as good as he can be. He cares about that. He pretty clearly cares about that. He's not just here to make a bunch of money. It's pretty clear he wants to be, at least for now, he wants to be good. Maybe that changes when he gets older, but right now he's 23. He wants to be great. And he's attached himself to Seattle. Like it's a very positive thing for him, which is great for Seattle because that's not super common, you know, at least in Major League Baseball, right? If I told you, like, he's been a 5 to 6 win player 2 years in a row. The first year he did that, he missed 25, 30 games. Mm-hmm. If I told you that he combined last year's health with his performance in his first season plus 15%, 10%, and ended up hitting 290, 360 to 370 OBP, hit 35 homers, stole 40 to 50 bags, played 150, 155 games, played the defense in center field. That's a 7.5, 8 win player. I don't think that would surprise anybody because it's not all that different than what he's done. It's just healthy, in the lineup pretty much every day, and take just a little step forward. He takes that kind of a natural step forward that we really haven't seen from him yet. Because in some ways he took a step backward last year, except he was healthy all year, right? Hmm. I would be surprised at all. I think the ceiling for him in 24 is probably 7.5, 8 wins, which is, and that's MVP territory. Like in the American League, a lot of things can happen, but Ohtani's not here anymore. And, Mike Trout, you never know what's going to happen there. Aaron Judge, you never know what's going to happen there. Who's a better bet in the American League? Like clearly a better bet to win the MVP. I don't know if there is someone.
Like you can
who is it? Maybe Juan Soto. And how long is Seager going to be out?
Right.
So if Seager was perfectly healthy and didn't have a track record, I'd be like, well, there's your number one guy. Like I would bet on Aaron Judge missing some time. I would bet on Mike Trout missing some time. Soto doesn't play any defense, but he's in the mix certainly because he can end up hitting 300 with a 450 OBP and 40 bombs in New York. And if they win that division, he might be the favorite. Corey Seager might be number one if he was going to start the season healthy and didn't have the track record he did. But yeah, is there a better bet in the American League to be a 7.5, 8 win MVP than Julio Rodriguez? I don't think so.
No. I mean, and you know what I think a huge key for the guy is, and we've talked about this a little bit, like just get hot out of the gate. Cause like the one thing that's kind of held him back is both his Aprils have been less than ideal. In the first month, his first month of his career, we know like umps were squeezing him and he and like the zones were expanding, all that stuff. But like objectively, like his Aprils have not been great. So if he could just get off to a good start and then just maintain, I think that could do wonders for him instead of having to play catch up like he did the last 2 years.
I'm hoping for one thing from this marathon because Julio will take care of itself. Even if he struggles early, he'll figure it out. He showed that even in his rookie year, like we were just saying. Well, the one thing I really want to see, and I think would be healthy for this team, and I think it would be healthy for the fan base, Luis Urias and Josh Rojas just holding down the fort. Just be fringe average the first like month and a half. Don't crawl into a hole and dig and throw dirt over your and bring attention to the Suarez deal and what the team didn't do and what now they need to go do because there's this huge hole. Just go up there and go, 90, 95 WRC plus, right? Like the first 6 weeks, and just keep the haters at bay. Whatever. It's like, well, okay, they haven't been good. They haven't been Suarez in year one in Seattle, but neither was Suarez last year. Just be kind of fringe average and then have a few moments, get a big hit a couple times in the first month and a half, keep that portion of the pressure off of them. I think that would be really healthy for this team, because I think you get into to June and July and you get away from the cold weather and where it's the ball travels a little better at home and it doesn't get in your head as much. And it just keep that away. And especially at third base. I mean, that's really it, especially, and it goes for everybody, but it just seems like third base where you just don't really know what we're going to get from those guys in combination. They have an opportunity, righty, lefty. It's probably mostly going to be Urias, and we've seen Urias do some things. Certainly wasn't last year, but the 2 years prior, it wasn't really 600 plate appearances worth, but he was a pretty decent player. And if he could be on a pace to be like a 1.5 player, be a fringe average to average defender and be a round average offense, that's a huge win for Seattle to kind of buy them a little time to fix that position long term. And next year it might just be Polanco, right? It might just be Cole Young at second and Polanco. It might just be 1 year, which is why that trade was a little weird to me, to be honest with you. You're going to pay Luis Urias $5 million in the first year and maybe not tender him the second year at $6.5 million or something. And you gave up Isaiah Campbell for that. Like, that was probably the strangest deal I think they made all winter. So maybe they just think Urias is a bench guy, because now Polanco's left-handed hitting, switch hitter, but also left-handed at third base, and they have a right-handed guy that could fit in at second, at short, and at third for a switch hitter and 2 lefties. Maybe they're thinking Urias is that. But yeah, I just, that's what I want to see. That's the thing that I'm thinking about the most. I want Urias to get some hits early, to not turn into Colton Wong, because those are some of the worst nights talking about the baseball team. And Colton Wong would go 0-for-3 and get pinch hit 4 in the 7th inning, like every night that he started. And then he just faded really, really. The Tommy La Stella conversation only lasted 15 minutes, or that would have been another one, right? I just think it would be important for that, because I think as soon as we see the kind of the same thing happening, even though it's at another position with another player, it's like, here we go again. The Mariners kind of went cheap. They didn't do something, and they're sitting around hoping for a young player to do something, or hoping for an unproven player to do something. And I think fans are so tired of that part of it, even when it doesn't have anything to do with payroll, that it will just it's just going to turn quick. And I just hate when the temperature turns like that quickly. It's like, here we go again. This team's going to be mediocre. And it's just, man, that makes social media guys unbearable. Absolutely unbearable. It's like they get swept in a series. It's freaking May 3rd and the season is already over to them. And then when they go on like a big long winning streak, and then the next year comes and the same people are like, well, you can't rely on like a 14-game winning streak every year. And then the next year they don't rely on a 14-game winning streak and they end up basically in the same place. That just gets buried. But if the second baseman and the third baseman in back-to-back years toss up like a 50 WRC plus, we're never going to hear the end of it. We're never going to hear the end of it. That's going to be the thing all season. You missed the playoffs by 2 games because Colton Wong was your second baseman for 2 or 3 months, because Luis Urias was your third baseman for 2 or 3 months. For my sanity, guys, I need Luis Urias. I don't care what the batting average is. I don't care what the home runs are. Get a couple of big hits, hold down the fort, just to keep Churchill from going absolutely bananas and disappearing into the night.